Hi, everybody. It's Pam from the Rock and Roll Show, and I'm here with my holiday elf, Mr. Joe Farina. Hi, Joe.
Hi, Pam. How are you?
I'm fine. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. How about that elf hat, huh? Not bad.
I love it.
Not bad. We have a very, very special show for you here on the Rock and Roll Show with Pam and Joe. In the spirit of Christmas, in the spirit of his toy drives, we are honoring and saluting Dick Biondi.
You know, Joe, when I interviewed Dick at the WLS studios in Chicago, I asked him, what's your favorite holiday?
Oh, Christmas, always Christmas, because all the family got together. There'd be 40, 50 people, you know, with all the cousins and aunts and all that. And every holiday, when my mother's mother and father were living with us, their kids would come over, my uncles and aunts. So holidays were always good.
You know, we got in touch with Joe Biondi about 3 years ago, and he's been an important part of the Dick Biondi film, and Joe was also a part of Dick Biondi Day. So we're really, really honored and really happy to have Joe and speak with Joe about what Christmas was all about in the Dick Biondi family, and hope you enjoy this interview. Check it out.
Hey, hi, Joe. How are you?
I'm good, Pam. How are you?
Great. Thank you so much for joining us and talking about Dick Biondi and
Sure.
what Christmas was like in the Biondi household.
Wow. Well, the Biondi household with my dad, when we were growing up, my grandparents would be there occasionally, and my grandfather, one of the things, I mean, there was always making pasta, right? And then we would have broomsticks and any sort of stick with towels and pasta drying all over the house. My grandmother would make gravy, and my grandfather would make bread. So there was a lot of carbs. The whole idea of a low carb, no carb diet was completely foreign to us. We had no idea what that was. But my grandfather would take a lot of time to make a creche underneath the tree, and he would spray paint it, and he'd have the manger scene there with all of the animals. And we still have, and this goes back 40 some years when I was a kid, but we still have the remainder of that manger scene. My dad sets it up inside the front door every day. He doesn't get as fancy as my grandfather did, but as a kid, that was it. It was always a lot of anticipation. You know, we always did midnight mass, which I never really understood because I like to sleep then. And then we would come home, open one gift, everybody would go to bed, and then we'd wake up a couple hours later, and you know, Santa would have arrived, and then we would open up the gifts with 6 of us, and then it was just mayhem for hours and hours. But that was it as a kid, and I was an adult, and we had a festa Italiana. So we would get all the kids, and we knew a priest who would come and do Christmas Eve Mass with us. And I would get my guitar out, and I would do a couple of songs, and I always did Mary Did You Know? That was a favorite song for me to sing. We would literally get on a flatbed with a bunch of hay on it, and we would go around to the hospitals and the old folks' homes and the Alzheimer's facilities, and there's one place in Albuquerque called Casa Angelica for children with major disabilities, and we would carol. And those were some of our best.
That's
best
wonderful.
memories. A lot of food, a lot of fun.
Sounds like a lot of tradition in the Biondi household. Do you know, going back to when your dad was a little kid, did he ever talk about if it was similar when Dick would have been in the house, little Dickie?
Yeah, they would, from what I know of where they grew up in Endicott, you know, they had their own wine press, and again, they would make all of their own pasta, and you know, same kind of thing with just a bunch of crazy little Italian guys running around. You know, they would be outside playing in the snow, and then inside and I'm sure they always went to, you know, Christmas Day Mass. So, you know, that was part of the deal. Everybody would hustle on down to church. I can't even remember the parish that they went to. But you know, that was from what I heard of the traditions, and that's kind of what we brought into our family. And then what my wife and I brought into our family and friends is that, a lot of food, a lot of fun, a lot of loving, and, just remembering the reason for the season,
It sounds
So
like you not only thought about your own family, but you went out and thought of others too.
that was probably when we asked the kids who are now all grown up and some are married, what do you remember? And sure, the mayhem of them putting on a Christmas play, when they were all younger, we always got the entire Christmas story, and somebody would dress up as Mary and somebody would Joseph, and a dog was the baby Jesus or something like that. It was really a lot of fun. But they remembered going out and caroling and going through the hospital. In fact, last night we were remembering, we were doing carols on one of the cancer wards, and this gentleman got up and we sang a couple of songs for him. And as we walked a couple of doors down, the woman who had coordinated all of this said he hadn't gotten out of bed in a month, and
Wow.
he's not going to be here for Christmas. And
Oh,
it was a couple of days before Christmas, and so those sorts of memories, caroling in the neonatal intensive care, very quietly, and the people were there holding the babies that were preemies, and
oh, wonderful.
yeah. I mean those are our traditions, and that's what I got from my dad and what he got from his dad.
And I always remember the uncles, the first thing they came in the door, they had to have a cup of coffee with a shot of booze in it. They called it Coffee Royal.
When the uncles arrived at the house, they would pour what was it? They poured into the coffee?
It was either a brandy or a Benedictine liqueur. I remember that being in our house, and that was part of the deal for Christmas as well. Now, my dad and Dickie's, when my dad would talk about growing up there, he would talk about Dickie, talk about their cousin Carmen, and then talk about Nick, and talk about Victor, and all of the different cousins were always running around in groups, and they would, two of them would form an alliance against this one, and then 10 minutes later, that one would form an alliance against this one, and they were just, rough and tumble little Italian kids, and they had a lot of fun as well. And to this day, they're very, very close. I saw my dad and his cousin Victor have a reunion out in California in very early March before everything shut down. They had not seen each other in 40 years. So many tears,
Oh.
And when I saw my daddy and Dickie get together when we were in Reno, and this is 96, 97, so many tears, so many hugs. It's just the connection that group had as first generation Italians was amazing.
I know they're very religious.
Yes.
The Catholic faith meant a lot.
Meant everything.
Is there anything you want to say about that?
Well, my dad was in the seminary for 2 years with the Salvatorians, decided that wasn't his calling. And I remember early on when I was on the air and radio and just couldn't, I was so poor, couldn't pay attention, right? And I was talking to Dickie pretty regularly. This is when he was on in Myrtle Beach before returning to Chicago. And he was so gracious helping me with advice. And I remember calling him one time saying, how long does it take to get anywhere in this business? He just started laughing. He said, man, stick with it. And there was one thing where I'd gotten sideways with a boss and I had switched stations and it wasn't a pleasant experience. And I was talking to him and he said, one thing that I'll never forget. He said, God doesn't hand you anything you can't handle. And that got me through so many things. And I remember when he and I were together in Reno, he was like, well, where do you go to Mass? I said, Our Lady of the Snows. So that was a very grounding thing for him, for my dad, for all the cousins, certainly for my grandparents, and for me to this day. I tell my dad, the greatest gift he ever gave me was my faith. And I tell my girls, if the only thing you have left, if you lose everything and you have two hands and a brain and Jesus, you're good, So now I'm going to get emotional, but that is sent to their lives and center to mine as well.
Very nice. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Is there anything else you'd like to say about what the meaning of Christmas is to Dick Biondi?
Dickie was a gift to me, and I know to many, 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 many people over the years, with his graciousness, with his accessibility. He was one of the early pioneers of rock and roll radio, and he's in that book called The Pied Pipers of Rock and Roll, with Dick Clark and with Wolfman and with Weird Beard and with Alan Freed and all of those guys. They were really groundbreaking people for their time in that era, and he remained grounded. My dad tells stories of walking down the street in Chicago with Dickie back at the height when he was at WLS, and these kids were on a high school trip to Chicago, and they saw Dickie, and they were up from Indiana or somewhere, and they just flipped out, And Dickie said, "Well, when was the last time you ate?" And they said, "Oh, well, we haven't eaten all day." And he took them into a restaurant and bought them lunch. That's the kind of man he was. And that's, even though I didn't go as far in radio, if I could get half as far as a man as my dad and Dickie and those guys, that's enough. Yeah, they're special men, all of them. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you including me. I appreciate all the work you're doing for Dickie. And
thank you.
God bless you, and have a very Merry Christmas.
And same to you, Joe.
Okay, thanks.
Take care.
Joe, thank you very much for sharing those special memories of Christmas in the Biondi household. We really appreciate it. Thank you, my friend. And now we're going to get into the Dick Biondi toy drive. We're just very, very happy to have on-air talent from WLS, Greg Brown.
One of the nicest guys in radio. And I had a lovely conversation with Greg, and he's going to tell us all about the toy drive following this clip from Dick Biondi.
I did a toy drive way back in Youngstown in the 50s, and then I started doing it here. And I think the reason that we did it for the whatever UCAN, which takes care of kids. But I remember that I asked them to let me talk to a couple of kids to get the feel. So they brought a couple of kids from foster homes, and I asked one of the little 7-year-old African-American girl, and I just said, "What would you like Santa Claus to bring you for Christmas?" And she said, "I just want a new dress so the kids will stop laughing at me when I go to school." That was a strong line. Think about that.
Hi, Greg. Wow, thanks for
Hello.
joining me. Oh, this is wonderful.
It's my pleasure. And to talk about Dick Biondi always makes me happy. So thanks for having me.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, I know how close you are with Dick, and I know that you're great friends to this day, and I know that you've shared so many of those wonderful toy drives with Dick, and I thought you would be the guy to talk to about, what it meant to Dick to do these toy drives, and kind of explain. I'm sure everybody in the universe knows what it's all about, but you could tell them a little bit about it. It'd be great.
It was a chance each year for us to collect toys for kids. And it was generally, for the longest time, I did about, I think, 23 of them with Dick. And in the beginning, they were 32 hours straight through, and he stayed up the whole time. Actually, he would get there early, several hours beforehand, so they could do TV interviews and stuff to promote the fact that it was coming up in a couple hours and so on. So he was there for a long time. And so we'd collect toys, and people would bring toys, and it was pretty amazing. We'd have a mayor of whatever town was there, and they'd proclaim it Dick Biondi Day, and we had Marines marching in with toys. We had fire departments coming in with a big fire truck full of toys, and it was always pomp and circumstance with all that kind of stuff. He had all of his musician friends show up, guys like the Ides of March, Buckingham's, Crying Shames. Jimmy Sands showed up. He'd sing Gloria for everybody. And plus, whoever was in town, Herman's Hermits, Cedar Noon would come by, and so on. So all day and all night, there would be folks stopping by. So the crowds that came would hang around because they didn't know who they would see. And they wanted to be there. In fact, some people used to get a hotel room somewhere nearby so they could just come and stay. Because again, Dick was on 32 straight hours. So they'd come over and hang out all day and all night. It was a
Crazy.
pretty amazing time. Well, I should say that God had a way of loving people through Dick, and especially at Christmas. And when we would do the toy drives, people would come to see him, and he'd always say something like, "Where you been? I've been waiting for you all day," or "I'm so glad you finally got here. Come on over here and say hello," or something like that that made them feel special. And they were special to him. They were like family to him. And I could see that because I got to sit next to him through, for several hours at each of these things each year. And I saw how he handled people. I saw how he treated people. And I saw how people felt after they left talking to him. And it was heartwarming to see that kind of stuff. He's just a special human being.
You're absolutely right, Greg. And I was one of those people.
Yes,
I still am.
Yes. And this is the point, that people like you were touched so much that you pursued things to help Dick. And that was what was going on with the toy drive as well. People would show up who Dick had talked to when they were in high school and did something special for them. And so they'd come and bring cookies every year. Or there was one guy that had some issues when he was a young kid, and he would talk to Dick on the phone during Dick's show. That guy never forgot that. So then as he became a businessman, he started making T-shirts, and he would come up with a special design each year, a unique design for that sweatshirt. And he'd print up 100 of those. He'd bring them so that Dick could give those to the kids. And that was something he just did every year. But stories like that where people came to really thank Dick for all that he did, but in return it helped all those kids in the long run.
That's right. It was really something to see. And I understand people used to bring him olives and garlic and whatever.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, if somebody came and they would bring olives, and he had to open the jar and have an olive, or they weren't happy. So he did that. And people would bring food and pizzas at midnight. People started bringing in pizzas for him because he wanted something to eat and so on. So he would have that. They'd have motorcycle clubs. Hell's Angels type people on their motorbikes would come in, and they would stay all night to keep Dick awake, and to protect him if anything happened. So they were there. But it was just an amazing time to watch how it touched people, how it certainly helped the kids. And Dick was so instrumental throughout the year setting that up. He'd get sponsors to come in, and they would donate money to help set it up. They would donate toys, of course. They would bring in people, and like I said, the mayors would show up of whatever particular town, and it was a festival. And there would always be about 50 people lined up to meet Dick, talk to him, get an autograph, and then all this other stuff was going on the side. So it was special.
It really was special. And I remember seeing you at a lot of those toy drives, and you're in our film talking about the toy drive too.
Great.
And I'm going to show a little clip from the movie in the segment. So thank you so much for doing that and for being part of it.
My pleasure.
Is there anything else you'd like to say?
Merry Christmas.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you so
bet.
much. This has been
God
fun.
bless.
Take care.
Thank you.
Love
Thank you.
Mwah.
Thanks, I'm Nick Biondi for the Toy Drive, and the toys are coming in. I can't believe how many wonderful, wonderful toys there are, and how many wonderful, wonderful people are here.
Kids would run down to the fire engine and give the firemen toys to take to Dick Biondi.
Dick Biondi Toy Drive, been going on forever.
He feels blessed, and he wants to bless others.
Greg Brown, thank you so much for being a part of this very special rock and roll show with Pam and Joe. The toy drive, it was such a vital part of Dick Biondi's sensational career. And he's helped so many children over the years. And he's also connected with a lot of people over the years. Pam, who did you have a conversation with about the Christmas Mass?
I had the great pleasure of talking with Jim Peterik and Larry Millas from the Ides of March about the special Christmas Mass that they held each year at the Holy Name Cathedral in Chicago. Hi guys, how are you, Jim
Hi,
and
Pam.
Larry?
Groovy. We're great, coming to you live from the World Stage Studios, and this is where we spend almost all of our time. Right now, we're just we're doing some mixing.
Yep, working on stuff. We got
Awesome.
lots of stuff in progress, in
Yeah,
fact.
yeah,
You're always busy, you guys. Always up to something.
yeah.
Well,
yeah.
thanks for taking the time to join me and talk about the Dick Biondi and Ides of March Christmas Mass that you did every year with Dick. Can you tell me how that got started and how many years you did that? Do you talk about, what that was like for people
Well,
that don't know what it was like?
It was 12 years in a row, but maybe Larry knows how it started.
You know, I'm not exactly sure how it started. I know that Dick used to show up at our gigs, and he had this guy was wearing his collar. We're going, what is it? Oh, it's my old friend. I went to school with him, Father Dan. And they're, oh, wow, great. And they showed up more and more. It was really great. Every once in a while, we'd ask Father Dan to walk out on stage and bless the concert.
Yeah.
And he did that a number of times for us, which was so cool. And then I think it was soon after that we started, that he invited us to sing down at Holy Name. It was always the 6 o'clock Mass on Christmas Eve. And boy, we packed the house. It was a full house. The Ides really draw on Christmas Eve. Okay.
That was our standard joke.
Yeah.
We draw so well every time we play Holy Name Cathedral. But, at first it was like maybe 2 songs. And what was cool about this is they let us do our originals, as opposed to Silent Night and the standards. They wanted, Dan wanted, sharing Christmas and...
Yeah, because your lyrics were so appropriate to the message of the season.
Don't let this silent night pass you by. Fill your heart with the season. Reach out your branches up to the sky. Where there is love, there's a reason. Sing for the children, the innocent few. Let the day spirit travel in you. Sharing Christmas, it's more than just ribbons and bows. It's a feeling that grows. Sharing Christmas, open your hearts on this day, letting your love light.
And Father Dan would take the lyrics and he'd weave them into the homily, like he talked to the crowd, for like a few minutes, about the meaning of Christmas or the things to think about and all that kind of stuff. And then he'd bring us on to do a couple songs.
Yeah, and Dick was our opening act. He should have been the closing act, because everybody loves him, and he always goes over so well. But he would come up while we're in our places in the front of the the altar, and Dick would come up every year. He had a different, usually very amusing. One time he did like 5 minutes on. There's nobody named Holiday. Why is this a holiday? This is Christmas. There's no guy named Holiday. And everybody could really relate that because Christmas is becoming so generic. He wanted to bring back the real spirit of Christmas, and he always emphasized that. But he would always weave in a great story, and people were just spellbound by Dick Biondi. And he never stuttered. He never stammered. He was just right on target, and the people, when he was walking out of the cathedral with us, everybody wanted to talk to Dick. He just makes friends wherever he goes, and then we would come on and he would introduce us, and now Chicago's own, the Ides of March, and we would maybe come on with sharing Christmas or
We wish.
What's the
Distant Trumpet.
Distant Trumpet? Oh, yeah. Of course, John Larson was living at the time, and he's such a loud player. He would not need a microphone. He was like, blowing up to the heavens above, and he was still too loud, But what a goosebump moment when you could hear that trumpet through the cathedral, and Father Dan just smiling, and Dick Biondi. They were like, proud fathers, to the Ides of March. And we thought it was going to be like maybe a year, maybe 2 years. And every year we'd get a call from Father Dan, well, time to do it again. And I just asked Dick Biondi, and of course he's going to be there. I said, count us in. So for me, that was fun enough. But afterwards, we'd all get together, Dick Biondi, Father Dan. What was the restaurant, the Italian restaurant that's no longer there?
Yeah, well, the first one that we went to probably 8 out of 12 times was Buco di Beppo.
Yeah.
Downtown.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, that's a whole family serving thing, and it was always 25 of us by the time it was done. We had tables and lots of people. It was just a hoot. It was so much fun.
Sounds fabulous. Really.
Yeah.
Just personally, I'd always make sure I was positioned close enough to Dick so that we could drag some stories out of him.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times my daughter Rachel was with us, and she was 20, 23 years old, like that age range, and she was just fascinated by the Dick Biondi stories. The first time the Beatles were in town, I was there, and really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, we were in Sox Park, and it was. She loved just sitting and hearing stories, and each time we would say, Dick, you really got to get these stories recorded. I mean, people want to hear this stuff. Like, you got to do something official,
And he'd go, oh, no, nobody wants it. Yeah, well, look at Rachel. She's eating the stuff up.
Oh, I'm telling you, she loved it. Well, she still, she said, like, we doing, like, the Biondi this year again? She's asking me.
I know. We were just so disappointed when, he got transferred. After 12 years, he actually got 2 extra years, bonus years.
Yeah, it was very unusual because usually the priest is only given like a 10-year run tops. In a holy name cathedral. And he was there for 12 years. It looked like he was going to go for a lifetime thing there. But then, the upper management changed.
Yeah.
Way up.
And,
We were fortunate enough to interview Father Dan in the cathedral, and when he was still there.
Oh, man.
So, yeah, he's in the film, too.
Of course.
Monsignor Dan now.
Monsignor.
That's true, yes. Yes,
Yeah,
you're right.
although he doesn't mind, Father Dan.
Can you just describe why Dick loved doing that Mass? It meant a lot to him. Why did it mean so much to him?
The time of the season, the grandness of the moment. He appreciated. Here we are sitting like in Holy Name Cathedral. It's like it's like one of the best cathedrals on the planet. There's maybe a dozen that are in that same category, and they're mostly in Europe. So right there, you're struck, and it's just beautiful. It looks like a movie set or something.
Mm-hmm.
So the moment gets you, and then like you're surrounded by your friends. Hopefully the Ides. And your old school friend, like your buddy, you used to hang out with, is the guy running the show up front there. Father Dan was, and so that's like it's overwhelming, and like Jim said, we all kind of knew, the clock is ticking, and this is only going to happen so many more times, and we thought that the last couple times we did it, and you're taken by the grandeur of it all. Dick, for all his goofing around and his storytelling and all that stuff, he's a serious, real guy. He's an intelligent, thoughtful person, very grateful for his positions, in life, in his career, and his wife, and his friends. So I think that's what was going on.
Yeah, I know. Well said. I couldn't say it better. I can only add that he's a very Catholic, very religious person, and this is like Father Dan, and Holy Name is like ground zero for all his faith, And every time he would speak, you could tell it's from the heart. It was about his beliefs of Jesus Christ and the resurrection, and it was all baked in. And Dick went through some wild times, and I think when he looks back, it's really, he loves to move forward. And he had a wild youth, he had a lot of stories, but he's at a point of his life now where he's just giving thanks to the big guy upstairs, and he's so loyal and so dedicated to his faith.
Very well said, both of you. I agree 100%. His faith means so much to him, and Christmas means a lot to him, and that's why I think he's been so adamant about providing for children and needy kids with this toy drive all these years.
Well, I was just going to say, we should mention that as it's a big thing. Each season, Dick, I don't even know how many years that ran, decades, but he'd mount a remote broadcast from some location and the toy drive thing, and people would show up and he'd give toys, and he'd have special guests on the broadcast. He invited us, to come and hang out and do an acoustic song, and stuff. Then he had other people come, local acts, and it was just fun, and he loved it.
He sure did. And of course, for many, many years in a row, it was a Dick Biondi marathon where he would stay up for 3 days. And of course, he couldn't do that anymore towards the end. But he did it. He stayed up for 2 or 3 days on end. I could never have done that.
Me neither. The guy was amazing.
Oh my God. And we would joke around, and those were good times too.
Yeah.
Sing for the people, and all the mall people were
I'm just thinking of us, like in our big winter coats, we got acoustic guitars, and so we're trudging through the shopping center, going to Dick's thing,
Oh yeah. We're like the Pied Piper.
And all you had to do was look for the crowd, because it was unbelievable how many people showed up at those things. It was.
Sure. Oh, he had such a fan base. You'd see a lot of the same faces, just like the Ides do when we do a show. We call them the extreme fans. Dick had so many extreme fans. It was unbelievable.
Yes, he did.
Dick Biondi and I used to have this secret thing. When everybody else was feasting down, I would get there, he would get there, and hey, Dick, come on over here. And he and I would buy him a martini. And we'd sit at the bar.
Is that what was going on?
That was what was going on.
It comes out now. The secret is out.
Yeah, this is our little secret thing. And now I'm bringing it out. But every year, hey, Jim, we're going to do our thing. Yeah, Dick, yeah.
No wonder he was in such a good mood.
He was jolly. He was jolly. We each took a couple sips. We weren't, but it was the ritual of it.
Sure.
And then we would feast down with, eggplant parmesan.
Oh, my goodness.
Oh, my God.
My favorite.
I'm getting hungry right now.
We have a week worth of leftovers from when we left our...
Yeah, but those were some of the best times. And towards the end of the 12 years, we knew it was reaching the end.
Well,
and
there's a limited time. Things happen.
Yeah, and we were like, oh, man, we're going to look back at those times and say those were the best of times. And they really were.
Jim and Larry, thank you very much for sharing with us those fantastic memories. They may be over, but they will last with us forever. Right, Pam?
You got it. So many great memories Dick Biondi has given us over the years, and we sure miss him. We miss hearing his voice on the radio. But you know what? We still have those great memories. We always will. Joe, thank you so much for always being there, being part of everything.
Thank you, Pam. Always an honor and always a pleasure. And we want to thank everybody out there for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this special edition of the Rock and Roll Show with Pam and Joe, dedicated to Dick Biondi, Toy Drive, Christmas. We want to thank everybody who participated, the Ides of March, Joe Biondi, and Greg Brown. Thank you so much for being a part of this special show.
Thanks, Joe. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas.